go.
All right, everybody. Hey, welcome. And okay, boys, listen the fuck up. It is time for us to talk. Now, this is the first episode of Okay, Boys, Listen the Fuck Up. So it's going to look a little quirky, right? All good things when they came with a pilot episode and they had an actor that got changed out maybe in the second episode. It's going to happen here too.
It's happening.
It's happening. We've got the commission, Mr. Dave Jack. You know him, you love him. You cannot live without him. He's going to join. He's stepping in for Ray. Ray is caring for ailing children in El Salvador.
Yeah.
God bless.
Yeah.
He's
God
doing
bless
the
him.
Lord's work.
Just
doing the Lord's work. We love
good
Ray.
stuff.
Can't have enough of Ray, but look, Ray couldn't be here this week, which is a damn shame. But we'll get him next week. But let's get into things, right? You're not here to listen to us blabber about things. You're here to listen to things. Let's talk about last week's games, Dave.
Heck yeah, let's do that.
Let's look at last week's games, or at least let's think about last week's games. So last week was kind of a make or break week, right?
We're coming up on that time of the season that playoffs are right around the corner.
Yeah,
playoff spots are being locked in as we speak, right? Like you gotta win.
Look, unless you're who's the boss, and you've basically been in the playoffs since week 2 because nobody in your division is any good.
I was gonna say, let's talk about that division real quick. They're just freaking awful, man. Like that is the AFC East from the past few years, and Bosk is the Patriots, who may or may not be that great.
Is he really even that good?
But he sneaks into the playoffs.
He's in the playoffs, automatic in the playoffs. But really, yep. I mean, it's sort of like now by saying he's the Patriots, we're comparing him to Bill Belichick or Tom Brady, and so it's a very dangerous thing for us to do. I don't know.
I don't know if we're to that point yet.
We need to maybe pump the jets on that one. But look, so it was week 10. We're coming off of a couple of things. We're coming off heavy buys. At this point, there's still buys going on. You got to deal with buys. There's obviously injuries going on. It was a low-scoring week in the NFL.
Oh, super low-scoring week. And I think a lot of that has to deal with the weather. Like, did you see that? There was a massive storm, right? Green Bay had weather. Cleveland had a storm. And then that storm continued on to the East Coast, and the Ravens-Patriots game got hit by the same storm that had delayed the Cleveland game. Like, that's crazy.
Which is so bizarre, right?
Just weird.
Like, it's just like you could schedule 100 games, 100 right. weeks worth of games, and you could never ever replicate that sort of thing coming in.
No, absolutely not. And it really showed. If you look at the average score for this week compared to other weeks, right? Like you're looking in here, week 1, 205, week 3, 202. You're sitting up in the 190s, 200s, right? Now, last week was 185. I mean, everybody scored less. The high score of the week is typically, it looks like we don't have any that are lower than 238, it's in that 240, 250, 260 range. And last week's was 228. Like, just, you snuck in there, by the way, Nick, with a high score.
When you're good, you're good. But
I don't know about good.
And I'm even looking at it, and I had some consistent scoring on my team, which kind of is my calling card, right? It's how I built the team to try and have consistent scoring. And if somebody pops, I'm off. But
we'll talk about that in a bit, I think.
Right? But it really wasn't an outstanding week. And I was like, I don't know. Yeah, I think I have enough to win. And then, I started looking at, the other teams, and I'm like, holy smokes, I think I might have enough to be top scorer in the league this week, which is kind of insane. But it goes back to, look, when you have this storm coming through, and especially when you've got like Deshaun Watson, you've got Aaron Rodgers, you've got Jake Luton. I mean, we're talking about big time quarterbacks here that are going
absolutely.
there.
And I mean, I had Russell Wilson, right? Russ has been cooking all year long. He's been doing great. What's he do? 2 interceptions and a freaking fumble. What in the world? I think he scored like 8 points last week. Like,
and if it was up to me, he scored even less, Dave.
Oh, well.
But you know what? Yeah, if you just
Well,
scored anything
how about
better.
that Kyler Murray throw though, man? Like that was amazing.
You want to hear something funny? I was getting on a plane in Chicago, watched until Buffalo scored that touchdown, and I went, and I walked over to the gate to go get on the plane. I sit down and I hear some people kind of talking about it on the plane, and I look, and this is all within a span of a couple of minutes. And then all of a sudden I go to Twitter on the plane, and it's like everybody's like, WTF, WTF. And then a video of the play comes up, and I'm like, what? And I started showing everybody around me. It was
No
crazy.
way.
The flight attendant wanted to see it. Everybody wanted to see it. It was
That's
fantastic.
awesome.
It was so much fun.
You became a plane favorite right then.
I was the plane favorite, and then they let me sit in the extra row. It was perfect.
Awesome. Even
Yeah.
better.
Good times. So, like, okay, so really, I feel bad for Gabe. Gabe scored 185 points, right? That's good for Gabe. It's, look, let's set the bar at the bar. It's like when you see the kids on the playground and they're all jumping off the swings, and then the one kid just kind of like falls off the swing, and he's so proud of himself. Gabe, you're the kid that fell off the swing. Good for you.
Good job. Good job, buddy.
Good for you, buddy.
Well, you know what though? I'm looking at Gabe's scores, right? And he's actually he tripped like right out the gate, right? Like just not great. And I don't know if it was injuries or just terrible decisions when it comes to making a team. But
Can you Drake at 70 something bucks?
maybe.
Some of them don't work out. Look,
You're right.
but here I'm going to be the same guy that hammered the Todd Gurley, paying big bucks for Todd Gurley. And if you look at Todd Gurley, he's scoring.
He's working out. Exactly.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you could be Tom and pay what $125 for CMC, and he's played what 2 games this year.
But look, and we could start talking about the playoff race. And what I would like to do is just commend Tom for taking one of the 2 undisputed top players, right? We had Saquon Barkley and you had Christian McCaffrey. So he takes one of those guys, gets hurt right out of the gate, and the guy is still pumping. He's in first place.
Absolutely.
He's in first place in what is undisputedly the toughest division the history of fantasy football has ever produced.
Oh, is that so?
That's so. That's a fact. It's science.
It is a very tough division. I will give you that. You do have several of the top scorers. You have an 8-3 team and 2 7-4 teams. You do got the punching bag in Shane. That's unfortunate.
But Shane's not even that much of a punching bag, number one. Number two, when I told you I was going to join this league, I explicitly told you to put me in with idiots. You have not done that, Dave. You have not done that. You have put me with competent owners. Therefore, I don't have a cakewalk into the playoffs.
It's true. It's true. In fact, right now you are sitting in a wild card spot.
I'm sitting in a wild card spot. Rob is sitting in a wild card spot. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't Rob a top 3 scorer?
He is, in fact, I believe he is a top 2 scorer.
He's a top 2 scorer.
He is only 27 points behind me.
But if I'm going to look at this, he's only 27 points behind you. I'm going to look at this, and I think his average points against, he just doesn't have any luck.
Yeah, he's brutalized right now. His points for is 22-25. His points against are 22-49. He started this year with some ungodly stupid record, like 1-4 or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't good. But he was still in the playoff hunt because of the ungodly amounts of points that he scores. He's just gotten really unlucky with these.
Losing by single digits every week, and with a good score at that.
Exactly, and it's tough. And I've been in those positions, and it sucks. But that's one of the reasons, putting Kamish hat on here. One of the reasons that we decided that the second wild card spot should go to one of those top scoring guys. Right, the second wild card is specifically for the best remaining scorer, not necessarily the record, but who probably has a great team, but maybe had some bad luck throughout the year.
It's just bad luck. It's the luck. Yeah. The luck just goes around, man. And look, I'm the king. I've got another league that I'm in, and I am the king of winning with the second or third lowest score of the week. All right. It works sometimes. It just happens. In our league, I mean, really, I don't know. I guess maybe call them cheese graters or something, that somebody would be in our league that would kind of be comparable to that.
Who are you saying is like that?
Yeah, would that be the second place in your division? Would that be the 6-5 cheese graters?
That is the 6-5 cheese graters who have a points for of 1799, which points for of 1799 is second to last. Second to last, barely beating out Gabe. Barely.
Baby, defense wins championships, Dave. All right, defense really wins championships.
That's outstanding. No, I'm looking at his scores, and he has scored over 200 points once this year. Once.
And it was barely 200 points.
Yeah,
Look, it's like the old
200.98. And yet he's still winning games. You gotta go to win the games, right? You play to win the game, as Herm would say.
You hear these stories about Milton Berle, and Milton Berle was famous. I don't know if you know this, but Milton Berle had a big dick. And
I did not know that.
Did not know this. So here's what would happen. He'd get the contest would come around. They get to drink in Old Hollywood, and they'd say, let's see who's got the biggest dick. And Milton Berle would always win the contest, but he'd never pull out all of his dick. He'd only pull out as much as he needed. That's the cheese graters. They only pull out as much as they need. There's extra dick coiled up in his jeans. I'm telling you right now.
Jeepers. That's good stuff. Yeah.
All right. So look, let's talk about it. First of all, I want to know the cheese graters. Where does that name come from? He is a Detroit Lions fan.
He is a Detroit Lions fan, and I believe
the cheese graters is a reference.
He hates my Packers.
And it's so funny because does anybody hate the Lions?
You know what? They don't. Except
maybe Lions fans.
Lions fans, I think, hate Lions. But a lot of us in the NFC North just look upon the Lions with pity. It's like, how have you been a franchise this long and you have had such just ungodly non-success, right? Just failure after failure.
Failure after failure after failure. But like the division is so funny because it's like you got these historic teams and they can't be split up, right? When they realigned they realigned everything, and it was like the Buccaneers see a Buccaneers. Like they couldn't get the Buccaneers out of that division fast enough.
Right.
But
absolutely.
But like nobody really gives a rat's ass about the Vikings either.
That's true. And the Vikings have this hilarious like little brother syndrome, right? Like they always want to beat the Packers. They want to beat the Packers, and the Packers are our biggest rival and everything else. We could give two shits about the Vikings. It's the Bears that we want to beat, right?
Yes, and the Vikings actually care about these games, and they'll beat the Packers and shit, we should have won that one. But it's never like anything. And you ask a Packers fan, who's your number one rival? The Bears. And you ask a Bears fan, who's your number one rival? The Packers. And then you ask the Vikings and the Lions the same question, and they who knows what the fuck they say, but the Vikings definitely hate the Packers, but then the Packers are like, fucking Vikings. No, we hate the Bears.
Who cares? They've never won it. Neither one of those guys have ever won a Super Bowl. How many trophies do I got behind me right now?
I'm counting 4, Dave.
That is 4. That is
counting 4.
And you add on the 9 championships we had before the Super Bowl era. That's 13, my friend.
It's 13. That's 13. That is the same number that Sam Shields has tattooed on his neck, right?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Sam Shields. So Sam Shields, he got the Super Bowl ring, I think, tattooed on his neck, and then the number 13 on it.
Nice. That's awesome.
Which, good for him.
Yeah. Well, we should get back to
Let's get back on topic.
Because our league is going for the first championship of the league, right? This is the first year.
Yeah, look, let's talk about playoff race. Yeah, let's talk about playoff race. Let's talk about the playoff race. So let's go for the aforementioned, easy for me to say, Adam. And who's the boss? Right?
Right.
Now you could say that he is a lock for the playoffs today, going into week 11. You could have said he's a lock to go into the playoffs in week 2 when you looked at his division. So
Absolutely.
I got to tell you, you guys in his division, what are you doing? Let's field a competent team. Let's do something. He's not even that good. He's like 4th overall in the power rankings.
I want to show you something here.
All right.
And let's see if my screen share works. So Adam is the orange line in this. This is your weekly power rankings every week as we go along, right? So this orange line, yeah, he's above everybody in his division, but guess what? He's not that good. I mean, granted, the top 5 teams, there is a significant gap between the top 5 teams and everybody else. So, you know, there's a few chances of spoilers, right?
Poor Wheeler.
You know, Wheeler,
he hitched his wagon. Look, he hitched his wagon to Jerry Jones. And I got to tell you, like a 35-year-old woman who needs some Botox and hanging around Jerry Jones, you're going to get dropped, Wheeler. It's not going to be good. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly real quick.
About as ugly as Dak's ankle break.
Oh,
yeah.
It used to point like this. Now it points like this. Oh.
What's up with that in the NFL this year, by the way? There's been 2, maybe 3 of those already on quarterbacks. I mean, that's just awful.
Not a fan.
Not a fan of that. But going back here, right? So you got Adam. He's right here. So of those playoff teams, he and Tom are right here, and yet they lead their divisions.
But guess what? Adam beat me. Adam beat you.
Adam beat me. He beat me by 3 freaking points.
He beat you by 3 points. He beat me by not many. I think when we played, I had a bye or something like that with a couple of key guys, and it just didn't work out.
You know, he beat me by 3 points, and he did it with, well, unfortunately, as the aforementioned Russell Wilson had a really shit game, right? And ended up turning the ball over multiple times. I believe on my team, I had 4 or 5 turnovers. He had like 1 on his team. Turnovers win games, right?
Right, exactly.
You know, but he had 2 breakout plays that really sealed the fate of my team, where you had Ronald Jones, who ran for like 92 yards or something like that for a touchdown.
It was a 98-yard touchdown.
98, that's right. And you had MVS from the Packers, who had massive thing. So here I am. I'm watching my Packers play. I see MVS. Yeah, go, touchdown, big time play. Awesome, great job. Oh, shit, Adam has him. Damn it.
Oops, it was against you. It was you know, Tom Jackson got snake bit, and he had a bad bye week because, well, speaking of the Vikings, Tom Jackson is all in on those Vikings.
He is obviously a massive Vikings fan.
It's working for him. Look, when it works, and it's frustrating for the rest of us. But yes, you know, he had a bye on the Vikings the first time I played him, and it just looked like I was going to slaughter him by 1,000 points. And then Tyler Lockett.
Oh, yeah.
Has that game against the
Cardinals. Yeah, he had a career game, didn't he?
He had 50 points. He had a wide receiver had 50 points. It's a crazy game. And Tom still didn't come within like 30 points. It was a rough week for poor Tom, but Tom got me back. He got me back 2 weeks ago on that one. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Revenge is a dish best served cold. He slapped me around pretty good.
Who, I guess I'd have to look. You might know because it involves you directly, but who holds the tiebreaker? If you guys end up tied at the end.
So if we end up tied at the end, it would be total points, right?
Well, it would be, I think the tiebreakers go record, then head-to-head matchup, which you guys would be 1-1 against each other.
We're 1-1.
Then I think it's point differential for head-to-head. It may, you know what? I'd have to check that. It may be total points, but if it's head-to-head differential, you know, you said you beat him by 30. What did he beat you by?
He beat me. Let's look at the the scores from week 9. That was he beat me by 21.
Okay.
And then when I played him, I beat him by 62.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
I guess that would do it.
62.
Yeah, I beat him 260 to 198.17. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That is a beatdown, my friend.
That is a beatdown. That was a good week for me. And
Yeah.
even though I had to deal with that, but then
Well, it sounds like it was a worse week for him.
it was a bad week for him.
When
It
you
was a
have
bad week for him.
when you have Lockett scoring 50 something points and you still get beat by 60, that's not a great.
It was a tough week. And anytime you stack your team with players from one team and then you have that bye, and it was that bye. It was just not good. But then, yeah, to make it a 62-point game in that capacity with that bye was even like, Jesus, if he didn't have that game from Tyler Lockett, what would he have done?
Oh,
but let's talk about something that I don't understand. Travis Stick and his team. Travis Stick and his team. He changed his team name to Infirmary.
Yeah, what's up with that?
And the only thing I could gather is when somebody gets frustrated because there's a bunch of guys on IR. Now, Tom Jackson didn't do that. No. He built a winning team that's in first place in the division. Ray didn't do that. No, Saquon Barkley went down for the year. And
Ray lost Saquon, and he's still fighting.
He was doing things. He was fighting. But Stick, who did Stick lose to IR?
So Stick has on IR right now. I'm not even going to count Raquel Armstead because he's on the COVID list. You got Devonta Freeman, Anthony Barr.
Who is it? Who is the in-season acquisition?
Yes. You have Nate Gary, or is it Jerry? I don't know that particular.
Who's also
player.
An in-season acquisition?
Trayvon Diggs.
Who was an in-season acquisition. So it wasn't
Darwin
those guys.
And Darwin James.
It was Derwin James, who he spent $10 for in the draft, who he was counting on to be his big stud safety, the big secret weapon on defense that was going to score him 20 points every week. And newsflash, Stick, hey, Derwin James has played 3 years in the NFL. 2 of them had been spent the entire season on IR, all right? When you're counting on a guy like that, it's, maybe – you can't call yourself the Infirmary or maybe it's a self jab. It's the Infirmary. I pick up guys that get hurt every year.
Well, so he called himself the Infirmary pretty early on, didn't he?
Yes.
It was like week 2 or week 3. And I'm seeing on here he has one guy from the initial auction on the on his injured reserve,
who's like a starter level, like a guy you'd hang your hat on.
But he's a $10 starter, right? He's not $100 plus starter in Saquon. That could literally, if you hung everything on Saquon, that could sink your season, right?
Look, when you're sinking the kind of money, when you're sinking a fifth of your salary into these guys, and Saquon was, but more than a fifth.
Oh, absolutely.
You really hamstring yourself, which kind of brings us back to the IR, right? So you put somebody on IR, you get a bunch of that money back, but what does that money really buy you? Because
there's not anybody available for you.
Anybody of value is already gone. So you can spend
the only person that I have seen use it effectively and then immediately get the football taken away, like Lucy with the football, was poor Wheeler.
Wheeler. And I'm going to go to my grave. I want his justification. That justification was beautiful.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous, right?
And it all actually made a lot of sense. And I was like, I agree with this man. I would definitely buy a monorail from that man. All right, I'm telling you right now.
It was the right play. Speaking metagame, just fantasy football in general, dumping everything you got on Dalton at that point was the right play. Unfortunately, Dalton gets hurt.
Dalton got hurt, but who knows what would have happened? Who knows what would have happened? But
the Cowboys just freaking suck this year anyway. But Dak was literally holding that team up, right?
I thought Dak. Coming into this year, I thought Dak was okay, but not that great.
Really
changed my opinion. Changed my opinion this year on Dak. When you see him single-handedly doing this, he's
carrying the entire team on his back, man.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You look at Zeke Elliott. What has he done this year since Dax left? I have him
No,
in another league. I used the third pick overall to pick him up. Guess what? He freaking sucks. It has tanked that team.
he's there's no reason for you to spend that much money if you're Jerry Jones
Right.
on Ezekiel Elliott, which by the way doesn't he have We Eaten on his or no
Yes.
Feed Me? He's got
Feed Me.
Feed Me
Feed Me.
tattooed, and quite frankly, yes. And you know what? You know what, Zeke? You've been doing a little too much feeding. Those abs ain't popping like they used to, pal. And we can tell. We can tell with your average. So look, I think this brings us back in because let's get back on Wheeler for a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he was in just dire straits in the quarterback position. But what did he do? He made some trades. He made some smart trades. So let's talk about that trade deadline coming up, right?
Absolutely.
And let's look at what you could do with smart trades. Because now he's got Tom Brady. He's got Jared Goff. He's got some competent pieces he could start at the quarterback position.
Absolutely. He is not entirely out of the playoff race here. He potentially, now he'd have to have a lot of dice rolls come up the right way.
Right.
We got week 11, week 12, week 13. So 3 games left. I would have to, for him to win the division, Cheese Graters would have to lose at least one of the next 2, or the next 3, excuse me. He would have to win all 3. I would have to lose all 3. That's not
It's a
likely.
stretch.
That's
not really
likely.
going to happen.
But I mean, maybe he sneaks into a wild card. Maybe somebody drops some games, yourself included. Who knows? But
you never know.
You never know. I mean, he's not completely out. But I agree with.
I'll tell you what he's got.
Smart moves.
If you look at his team, he has got receivers coming out of his ears. All right, now let's go back to the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb, if Dak Prescott was there, CeeDee Lamb would be already a super duper star.
Oh, absolutely.
He picked CeeDee Lamb second overall. I thought it was a little ambitious for the second overall pick, but through the first couple of weeks, it certainly appeared as though it was the right thing to do. Then he's got Calvin Ridley, who is solid, $35. And you got
Calvin Ridley has absolutely popped this year, right? Like
it's only a matter of time before he overtakes Julio Jones. I think the beginning of next season, he's the number 1 receiver.
I think that's almost already happened most games this year, to be honest with you. Julio's had a couple great games. But to be honest with you, I think at this point in the Dynasty League, I'm taking Calvin Ridley over Julio 10 times out of 10.
100%. And then he's got Darius Slayton. He got him for $1. What a bargain, Slayton!
Absolute bargain.
I mean, look, we'll address the best bargains in the league at a later podcast because we got to do some research on this. Who got the best value for $1 out of people? But that is definitely one. And then a 5th round pick, Laviska Shenault, is putting up points.
Oh my God!
Looks like he could be the guy down in Jacksonville. Now they just got to look. If Jacksonville loses them all out and they end up with the Fields from Ohio State, it doesn't look likely that they're going to get Trevor Lawrence, but they can get Fields.
I mean, the Jets are just awful. I don't see them getting anything other than the first round pick or the first overall, right? So
right, it's kind of got to happen. Kind of got to happen. So now, look, we talked about the bargains at $1, right? Let's talk about look, I'm very happy to, we gave Wheeler some kudos, but Wheeler, what did you do? What did you do with Mark Ingram?
He dropped him.
He dropped him
as if
he just took a cap hit.
See you later.
Right? And just forget it. We're done. And now, who picked him up? And somebody picked him up for $1.
Stin picked him up for $1.
Right.
So here's the deal with it.
Now, is Mark Ingram, does he have his best days ahead of him? No. But
absolutely not.
I would rather have him on my roster. He's doing something better than, Ryan Fitzpatrick or, I don't know, maybe Ben DiNucci. He's worth more to me than Ben DiNucci is.
Yeah. I mean, because you think about it, $21 times 60% for this year, because he's got a 3-year deal left. And you get another hit next year because, 2 years left. So 40% times 20 bucks.
Yeah.
It's like an $8 whatever cap hit. It's
$8. It's $8 less.
And when your total salary is $600 and you're trying to buy that superstar, and guess what? You're a couple bucks short. You're really gonna wish that you had that $8 back.
You're gonna wish you had that $8 back, indeed. Right. And look, it's gonna come down to it. We're gonna see how our first offseason goes and what happens with these transactions, what happens with free agency.
Absolutely.
Is the spending gonna go crazy? This is where I would say, look, save your money on free agency, get rid of your first round pick, trade with COVID 2020. All right. COVID 2020 wants your first round pick. He does.
You're already hoarding them like a freaking dragon over there, man. Like, what do you got? 3 of them?
I got 3 of them. 3 of them, dude. They're lottery tickets.
Have you even traded away a draft pick yet?
I traded away your draft pick.
Well, yeah, but have you traded any of your draft picks?
No.
Interesting.
No.
That is very interesting. You're hoarding over there.
Ticket to the dance, baby. You need a ticket to the dance. You can't win the lottery. You can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket.
The thing is, though, Nick, and I'm gonna kind of take a jab at you here. How are you gonna fit all those rookies on your team?
Well, that's a problem for another day.
Right? Oh, is that it?
It's a problem for another day. Look,
let's take a look at your team here.
I've never had an issue with too many of anything, right?
Because you've got you have a full roster. You have you have 31 of 32 players on your team right now on the active roster. And you have 15 taxi squad players, of which I'm not sure how many, but as soon as they pass their 3rd year, have to either come onto your active squad or get booted off your team. And you have how many draft picks?
I have several draft picks. All right.
Several draft picks. So you're going to have to make some choices here.
I have 5 draft picks before the 3rd round is done.
Yeah, which those aren't cheap either, by the way. I mean, rookies are cheap in general. Their contracts are pretty darn cheap. But $15 a pop starts adding up for those first rounders.
It kind of does, right? It kind of does. So, look, I might have to sell, baby. It might be time to sell when it comes to draft time.
Maybe you go after Ray. I believe he is holding the presumed overall number 1 right now.
I think he's got number 1 and 4. Ray, look, we'll do time. But Ray fell out of the ugly tree and hit every pretty branch on the way down. I don't understand how it happened.
I don't get it either. I really don't. He's wheeling and dealing constantly. And yeah, I agree. I think as soon as he comes on this show, you need to ask him if he has an addiction to trading. Like, he's got a problem.
I swear to God, man, he'd be the best on that offer up app. He would.
Oh yeah, totally.
He could turn a button he found on the sidewalk into a Cadillac. I swear to God.
What's next on the list? What do we got?
So look, let's look at this week's games. I think that let's finish with this week's games. So if we take a look at them, right? Week 11, and really games left. We've only got 3 games left right now. I don't know if they're set. There's some big points in here.
Oh yeah.
Right. The aforementioned, the infirmary. Look, Mr. McGiblets is favored by 14.5 of Bosk.
You know what? And I would be all for that. I would be all for Mr. Wheeler to beat Bosk and put him in his place. Get him outside of his division.
And here's the funny thing about fantasy football, right? It's just a made-up roster. There is no momentum, players. There's no any of that. But isn't it funny how the teams kind of ebb and flow? And when you're playing well, you're playing well. And when you're not playing well, you're not playing well. Mr. Bosk, it might not be a good time to go on a losing streak, my friend. You don't want to limp into those playoffs.
Exactly.
But, this is curious to me. Portchester Whooping Cranes, only a half-point dog to Older and Wiser.
Oh, that could be good too.
That is going to be an interesting game.
Because that puts your division in total like disarray, right? Because if you and Rob both win, which you're not playing each other this week, are you? No, you're not.
No, we're not playing each other. And Rob right now, Rob's playing Gabe, and he's favored by 6 points. I think he's safely.
I think he might be okay.
I think he might be okay in this game. Oh, Rob, we're looking at a 3-way tie for first, and it's going to come down to some real nut cutting time.
It's true.
And then I think Rob plays Tom Jackson next week, and then Rob and I play the final week. So we could be in a situation here. We could be in a situation where Tom Jackson goes from first place this week, heading in to week 11 with 3 more games left, the last team in, or he's not even in the playoffs. That's a realistic thing that could happen.
That's a real possibility.
But if Christian McCaffrey comes back, and he's back with a vengeance 2 weeks ago, but then he has, he hurt his shit. If he comes back, first, I am petrified of Christian McCaffrey.
Absolutely.
If I'm playing against him, that guy scares the heck out of me, especially in this league with the PPR. Boy, oh boy, is he valuable.
Oh, absolutely. There's a reason he paid as much as he did for him.
There's a reason he was the highest paid. Absolutely. Absolute reason.
So, I'm looking here right now, and I think you're right. I think Tom, if he loses another couple games and he's relying on points only, he's only 47 points up on Port Chester, Whooping Cranes. If Port Chester ends up outscoring him by a significant margin, he could sneak into that last playoff spot.
Holy smokes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of the league right there. That's the beauty of the rules of the league, where we go and that last playoff spot it's not about getting your wins and losses. It's about scoring points over the whole season.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, look, I think it's time for us to shut the fuck up and end this podcast. A good week 1 podcast. It was great having you on here, Dave.
Absolutely. Anytime.
It was a lot of fun.
No, this has been great. I can't wait to see you and Ray together. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of banter back and forth.
We're going to bicker.
I can't wait till you guys start doing some interviews. Maybe we can do some once the playoff starts, maybe some wild card teams interviews.
I want to see some wild card playoff interviews. I want to hear from teams. Look, I also wanted to hear from teams who didn't make the playoffs. What are they not going to do? What went wrong this year? Mm-hmm. What can be done? What's the plan on fixing it for next season? Obviously we don't want to divulge too much, but look, what do you got to do? We all know what you got to do. You got to get better, right?
Absolutely. What positions are you really looking for? If you're looking at maybe dumping some players, who's available on your roster? Maybe you're looking for some draft picks coming up, or maybe you're looking for that, good running back or good wide receiver, and you got too many quarterbacks or something like that. And, you can put that out there and just maybe watch those trade offers come on in.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Con Dios. And let's call it on episode 1.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Nick. Good luck, everybody, in week 11.
Go get them this week, guys.